say anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
The last podcast was called Saturn. And I guess I didn't really go too far into it, but I had to say goodbye to my Saturn yesterday.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
My Saturn view, it took me everywhere around the world. No, it did not. It just took me around places, some places that were hot. I think the longest trip it ever went on, I actually was not in it. My former wife took it somewhere, some long journey, and now I'm sitting telling you about it.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It was a friend, actually the young lady here in the podcast saying, here's today's podcast picture.
Mike's
Her mom
Daily
turned 50
Podcast.
and they took a trip to Ventura in it.
Yeah.
From Modesto, California. And that's funny because now I'm 50. Oh, did you hear one of the people that died? This is, I know, such a sad turn to take at the beginning of the podcast, but one of the people that died at the Capitol was like, and due to medical conditions, was only like 55 years old. Actually, the three people that passed away due to medical conditions, one was 30, one was 50, and the other was like 55. Just so young. And like heart attacks were attributed. This is what I heard so far, but gosh, that's not good. I'm 52 now, and that's becoming a concern. But honestly, I have been trying so hard, knock on wood. Of course, then you find out tomorrow that I died of a heart attack. That's really dark, Mike. Why did you go there? Any of us can die from a heart attack, really. It's there by the grace of our God and our heart go we. If our hearts give out, we ain't around. So, but just maybe not the best, healthiest lifestyle those people were living. I don't know. Maybe there was a heart congenital thing going. Not to get so dark in front of the podcast like that, but just was thinking about that as I read that just moments ago.
And here's today's podcast picture.
The podcast picture is of me. I could stand to lose a few pounds. With the Saturn view, as I was saying goodbye to it yesterday, it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And there I am with it, saying goodbye. You know, it was funny. I could not turn it over. The battery was pretty much dead. And I hadn't driven it in months, so I had to, and where Basil, and Basil drove in that Saturn view so many times, so many great trips. That's the most memorable thing about the Saturn view. We took trips to Half Moon Bay all the time, the late great Basil and I. The last trip that I took with Basil, after he had passed and I had to take him to, the doggy morgue, for lack of a better term. It was the last, I think it was one of the last times I ever drove the Saturn, except for the fact that yesterday I had to try and get it onto a street that's much bigger next to my street. My street's kind of narrow, but there's a cross street close by. It's big. So I tried to push. The car could not start. My lovely lady friend was there. And I go, okay, well, I got a little bit of an incline with my driveway. I'll use that momentum and then push it across over to the... She's like, what? You're going to do what? Say what? And, she didn't really have time to argue because I was gung-ho. I'm like, let's do this. I've done this a million times before. When I was in college, I had such bad cars. And they would, the battery would go out or something, and I'd be stuck on an off-ramp, so I would just push it off and roll with it in manual. Don't do this at home, kids. Consult a professional. So I pushed it and rolled it across, and luckily there's enough of an incline then on the other side of the street to get it to where I needed to park it, so the flatbed truck could come and take it over take it home, to sweet, sweet home, to car heaven. Hey, Haven... Speaking of Haven, Jarrell Neme, who's been on the podcast and really wants to be back on, we haven't had him on in a long time. I think at this point, he might still be on Twitch. I don't know, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Pacific time. He started at 12 noon playing Haven on Twitch, and I watched him play it a little bit. And he does a great job. He's got a nice channel. You see him playing it, and yet, he's like a little icon in the front, but he's sitting superimposed over the action. It's kind of fun to watch. And then there's like these Haven is wow. I don't know what's going on, but I could get lost in that game. They're flying over the grass of some mythical land, and you see the sky moving around, and it's pretty nice. I watched it for a little bit. So keep on, Jarrell Neme, but go outside and get some fresh air, or your brain will go error. Get some fresh air is what I'm trying to say. So yes, I said goodbye to the Saturn. Set it free. One of the greatest trips I took, and I've posted a lot of podcast pictures from many trips that I've taken with the Saturn View. One of them was actually a couple times we went down to Monterey and Carmel and what's it called? Pacifica? No, not Pacifica. Pacific Grove. Had such a great time. All these great trips we used to take, and it hung in there. It did not break down. In fact, I can't think of a time it broke down. I just remember the battery. I got a crappy battery from Walmart where it wouldn't start. But Walmart was cool. Don't go to the one in Pleasanton. Go to the one in Livermore. They're really nice, and they will get to you like super fast. I waited for 3 hours at the Walmart in Pleasanton, and only to find out they didn't have the battery I needed. And then I go to the one in Livermore, and they replaced my battery for free. Well, I had bought a battery from them earlier on, but so it was within the warranty, and they had to replace it. But they were much faster, speedier, nicer at Livermore, just so you know. But yes, all the great trips, podcast pictures, and so forth from that great car. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley today. So I said goodbye to that car. And it's always something, some cars you say goodbye to and it's but that one had a little bit of an emotional tug. All right, here I'm going to get a little bit political. I would like to say once again, little disclaimer, what I say does not in any way reflect where any place I work, and you may know where I work. If you do know where I work, this does not reflect, and you know this, but does not reflect in any way the opinions of those places where I work. That being said, Ted Cruz is facing mounting criticism for his role in the U.S. Capitol riot or insurrection. And Ted Cruz said he has no regrets for his role in inciting an insurrection. Today he said, or yesterday he said he would do it all over again if he had to. His colleagues might not easily forgive under a new presidential administration. To which I heard, and I talk often about the crazy conservative talk show hosts on the radio who have absolutely no background. There's only a few. It seems like the legal one that I told you about. He knows the rules. He knows the background. He's educated as to what he can and can't say and how the law works. Because he's a lawyer and he needs to be up on that or he'll get disbarred. But radio personalities don't need to do that. They can say whatever, and they often do, just to get a reaction. And I heard one guy yesterday say, "Oh, now the Democrats, they're gonna want blood. They're gonna get revenge for everything that's happened to them over the past 4 years." And it was so. What I enjoyed about that statement is that he's scared, is that he's frightened, and that maybe some of, for years they have been trying to put the blame and the responsibility on someone else, either the media. All the media is out to get them. It's all fake news. It's all Antifa. It's all BLM. It's all, they blame everything. They blame Bigfoot. Some guy with a really big foot. He can't help it. Oh, he wants just your picnic basket. No, wait, that's a bear. That's Yogi. Okay. At any rate, now they can't. Now it's the chickens come home to roost. And I have never lived on a farm. But I know chickens like to come home and they like to roost. And then make little eggs for you that you have delicious omelets with. Here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I refuse to call her AOC. Give her every syllable she deserves. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Try and roll the R's if you can. Let's do that. You're doing good. I'm Bob Ross. Let's paint another tree. Senator Cruz, you must accept responsibility for how your craven, self-serving actions contributed to the deaths of 4 people, now 5, and how you fundraised off this riot. It's absolutely true. He did. While it was happening, he was trying to raise money. Wow. Okay. But yeah, to Ted Cruz's credit, he did say it was despicable terrorism. And that he said, I ain't going nowhere. And then he ranted at Alexandria Cortez and called her a socialist, which they always do. So interesting where that will lead. It probably won't lead anywhere. It'll just end with my sentence right now. But enough of the politics for the moment. Oh, wait, there was one other thing that... No, that's it. No, wait. Oh, one other thing. Yes, sorry. I'm backing up and going forward, backing up, going forward. Now I'm stuck in the mud. Dang it. This whole thing, for years I have heard this trope from conservative talk show hosts about how if you let the left lead, if you let Democrats lead, and a lot of conservative talk show hosts combine the two, you will have a government that ends in anarchy, and it'll be like Rome, and we will collapse like Rome. Yet what we saw on January 6th was not the left, but the right taking over. The right extremists. The people on the right barging in. It was their party. They have to take responsibility for that. That's all I'm saying. Okay, now I'm done. Just the Rome thing. Now, back to Mark. Did I finish my thought about Mark the other day? I was talking about Mark and how he was somebody I worked for, and he would say the same stories over and over again. But one of the things he would tell me is he'd say, you know, you don't realize you weren't alive during Vietnam. And I said, well, actually, I was towards the end, but I was only like 1 or 2 years old. He said, well, I was a teenager then, and you don't realize how close this country got to civil war. And he would say that over and over again. And it wasn't until Wednesday, January 6th, that, oh my gosh, feeling that close to civil war. I mean, that's as close as I ever want to feel it. That was horrible. What a horrible day. Hopefully we can heal from after that. What's it going to take? The thing is, there are grudges being held on both sides. And you have Republicans saying, oh, they're going to get revenge. And you have Democrats saying, what happened on Wednesday can't ever happen again. And by the way, what was going on with the police at the Capitol? Only like a dozen were arrested. A dozen of the vandalizers, the insurrectionists, were arrested. And then now they're starting to go after people, though. The guy that broke into Pelosi's office and took a selfie of himself, or had someone take a picture of him, and he posted it on his social media, he got arrested. So that was kind of stupid, huh? All these people, there were so many people that broke into the Capitol that were filming themselves. They were attention, rhymes with floors. They were attention floors. And so they wanted all that attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm posting on. This is the type of people they were. And now it's going to come back and bite them. And everybody, even the president, is saying, yes, prosecute these people. So there you go. It's an interesting time, isn't it? All right. Fantasy football. I have no idea what it is, how it works, or anything, but apparently somebody who's been on the show, Ken, he's got a podcast called Mornings with Maria, Ken Luttrell. Kenneth, he got a fantasy football league together with the name Mike's Daily Podcast on, I think, ESPN. There was no money involved, but hey, somehow we won. So, hey, congrats to us. And I guess that would include you, the listener. Congratulations. Oh, and one other thing about that story that I talked about yesterday with the leopard print and Brian Setzer's wedding. And I knew Christine. Christine was someone that our moms knew each other. So I kind of grew up with Christine early on. Then I lost touch. But I got invited to the wedding anyway. One thing, and she doesn't listen to this podcast. I don't think anybody does. But if she were, Christine, I guess I forgot to mention the little part where you slipped. She didn't fall. She caught herself. But it was kind of a gasp moment. I remember when she was walking down. So she's walking down this leopard print floor runner. It's the best way I can describe it. Carpet. Red. It's not a red carpet. You know, one of those long carpets that would take you down through an aisle up to the altar. It was outside. But this thing was really slick. And she's in heels in her wedding dress. And she almost fell, but she caught herself. I remember I was right about where she did it. Unfortunately, the marriage did not last. And Brian Setzer, though, as far as I know, is still rocking and swinging and chiming and wailing and all that. One other thing I'd like to point out is that Amelia Romano is having her solo recital. Somebody sent me this to mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. It's going to be a YouTube live stream, and I don't know who Amelia Romano is. Sounds Italian. But, so she's going to play her harp. And just wanted to let you know that she will be doing that at 2 o'clock this Saturday. I am assuming Pacific time because it looks like she's in the Bay Area. Thank you, Amelia Romano. I don't know if you listen to the podcast or if this just got sent to me because I'm on YouTube, which you can find me at mikesdailypodcast.com. Or there's a link at mikesdailypodcast.com. YouTube.com/mikesdailypodcast, I think is how it goes. All right, let's see. We're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Let's say hi to some people. Hi, Mark. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
It's a disgruntled fiddle player. Tell you what.
What?
We have no room for domestic terrorism.
Excellent. I'm glad we agree with that. Look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. Can I make the delicious soup beer? Oh, boy.
Sure. Hey, what's in this root beer?
Coquito. Oh, boy.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's been... My lovely lady friend made so much coquito that we've got quite a bit left over, and wow, it's a Christmas drink. Comes from the fine island country of Puerto Rico, and oh wow, this drink has coconut milk, condensed milk, rum. Of course, it's got to have rum in it, and it's very Christmassy tasting. Tastes a lot like eggnog, but we got so much of it. And, well, thank you for the eggnog coquito root beer. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. If you would like to chime in about any of this, you can call me 336-MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews, Daily as in what this podcast tries to be. And remember, whatever you do, please remember that there are great memories made everywhere you go. And always acknowledge when you say goodbye to something, even if it's something superfluous like a car. You remember the good times that you had in that car. Because the unexamined life or the unnoticed life is not worth living. You should at least take a look around and see what you've done and give yourself a pat on the back for what you have done. Because it's pretty dang amazing, isn't it? Yep. Okay. That's a pretty amazing way to end the podcast. Take it away, Affern.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
2183, 2183, mikesdailypodcast.com.